Hello, everybody. Welcome into Between the Ears here on Thanksgiving Day. Thank you guys for taking a few minutes out of your viewing of the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade this morning as we are here to bring you a little bit more on the West Virginia Mountaineers and their matchup against the Baylor Bears to wrap up the season, regular season, I should say, out in Waco. And this has been a place that has not treated the Mountaineers well. They're 1-4 out there, but it's also been a place this year that has not treated the Bears well. They're 1-6 at home this season. Their only win is against Long Island, and they only put up, I think, 30 points in that game. It's been a complete down year for Dave Aranda and the Baylor Bears. I don't even really know where to begin with. I mean, this team has just been such a mess, and really, I think we have to start offensively. Blake Shapen looks like he's not going to be able to play in this game, so that completely changes things for them offensively. He was actually having a good season when he's been in the game and he's been healthy. He's throwing the ball very well. 13 to 3 touchdown to interceptions, completed over 62% of his passes. But it's no surprise that he's not going to be playing in this game because the offensive line has been horrendous this season. They are worst in the Big 12 in the sack category. They've given up 31 so far this season. So, Chris, let's start with Baylor offense. What do you see out of them on paper? What intrigues you? What worries you about this matchup, if anything?
Well, you took my sack stat, so there's that.
File on them.
I think the one thing there's nothing on paper that really worries you with this team. Blake got injured early in the year. They threw in, of course, I don't have the quarterback's name up.
Sawyer Robertson.
Sawyer Robinson. I was going to say Braden Sawyer, so way off on there. But Sawyer Robinson, he had to step in after the first game of the season. Blake missed 3 games, so you wonder with continuity within the offense. But you mentioned the offensive line's been hurt, been bad. Leading rusher doesn't even have 500 yards on the season. They're one of the worst offenses in the league. And I think the biggest concern with this is the intangibles, right? It's senior day. Want to put the seniors out with a win, finish the season with a win. So I think that's really the only thing on both sides of the ball you worry about. Because on paper, there's nothing that concerns you. They're not getting after the quarterback. They're not stopping anybody. They're last in pretty much every category offensively and defensively. So can they just play above what they did all year for the seniors? I think that's really the question. And on the other side, you kind of look at it for West Virginia. They're looking at a 3-8 Baylor team. You mentioned it. They've only beaten LIU at home. So that's an easy overlook. You got to remember these are 18 to 20, well, probably in West Virginia's case. Well, you got Devin Carter. So 18 to 22-year-olds out there. And it's easy to overlook a team that's only notched 3 wins. So for me, it's just about the intangibles. West Virginia just needs to do what they do, but are they focused? Are they looking, for the offseason, bowl prep, Thanksgiving week, missing family, having to travel? There's all those things that kind of go into it. So, my concern with West Virginia is very little because they've been a focus group pretty much all year. I don't think they really overlooked anybody all year. You can kind of say, well, they overlooked Houston, but to me that was more of a bad matchup than them overlooking anybody. This is a young, hungry squad, so really for me it's just stay focused, keep doing what you're doing, run the ball, keep working on the passing game, keep it simplified for Garrett, and not just last win of the regular season.
I actually like their run game. I know they don't have a ton of yardage there, but I think when you look at their yards per pop, it's like 4.5, somewhere in that range. The thing I think is the problem is they're just falling behind in these games. Their defense has been so bad they haven't had the chance to really run the ball enough, and they've kind of had to play from behind. So they've had to put it in the air, and I think that's why losing Blake Shapen is really critical for them because now they're going to have to lean on a run game, which they don't know what they're going to get out of when you try to run your offense through it. They do have a couple of big backs in Richardson and Pendergrass that are going to be tough to tackle. But I'm like you. I think West Virginia, what they put on tape last week and really over the last month of the season, if you just remove that Oklahoma game from your memory, defense has played fairly decent, I think. And especially against a team like this, an offensive line like this, they've won these matchups where if you look at these battles in the trenches heading into the game, and you see West Virginia has an edge, they typically end up holding to that they end up winning that battle up front. So I don't think that's much of a concern at all. In terms of Garrett Green, what do you want to see here in this final game? I know he's kind of had an up and down season, but last week he did a lot with his legs. I feel like this is a good opportunity really to air things out, maybe to get that 200+ yard game, get his completion percentage up a little bit. Is that what you're kind of looking at in this game here too?
I really just want to see, it's hard to do it really in 1 week, but improvement on those swing passes. I know we've mentioned it the last few weeks, kind of the bunnies
Yeah,
on the outside. He's made great passes over the middle, but you just want to see him settled in. There's been times where he started off games really efficient and moved the ball right down the field. That scripted first series has been good. I'd see it in the second and third and fourth series move the ball down the field where it's not as scripted, where the defense adjusts. How does he handle that? They've really kind of slowed there after the first possession, and there's been times where they've went 3 and out on the first possession. So, you want to see that continue on the initial drive, and then just continue rolling offensively. You like to see them jump out to a big lead. I don't know if they've done that in the Big 12 where they've gotten to a 2 or 3 possession uh, lead right off the bat. So if you can jump out early,
yeah,
I think that shows growth. Again, that's a 1 week turnaround. But with the 3-8 Baylor team that's struggling, I know we mentioned a tangible senior day. They're going to be hyped up to start the game. That would be a really good test because when you move forward to the bowl game and then going into next season, obviously everyone's hyped that first game, second game as well. So you want to see that kind of progression. Maybe start this game against a bad team, kind of get that confidence where they can continue to roll early, jump out on teams early, where they, we've talked about all year. What's the best defense sometimes? Uh, a really good offense where you're forcing your opponent to have to make the right plays, to have to get down and score, and you can force them in a bad situation. So they can do that against this Baylor team. I think that bodes well. I mean, yes, they're 3-8, but it bodes well. If you can do it against a bad team, then that's the right step forward going into postseason, into spring, and into next season.
yeah. I think Cincinnati kind of took a little while for them to get that multi-score lead. BYU, I know they scored quickly. I can't remember if it was right away, but I mean, they kind of controlled those two games from the get go. And I think that's what you would hope to see in this game too. You don't want to see that situation where you let Baylor hang around and they get some confidence that they can maybe get this win, because again, this is their bowl game essentially. They're not going to have another game until next September, and Dave Aranda's been very aggressive not only this year but throughout his career, and I expect him to be super aggressive this year. In this game, I wouldn't be surprised. Like I told Eugene on the game day show, I wouldn't be surprised if they go out there and if it's 4th and 5 from their own 40, I wouldn't be surprised if they go for it. What do they have to lose? So I mean, I think they're going to throw the kitchen sink at West Virginia. And if that is the case, what is the danger in that? Do you think it forces West Virginia to be more aggressive themselves, or what do you think?
West Virginia shouldn't be scared to be aggressive. They shouldn't be scared of that in any way, shape, or form. They've been aggressive all season. So that's something I'm sure they're prepared for. I'm sure they realize that this is their bowl game as well. And I think one of the things you have to be careful for is, it's Thanksgiving break. A lot of their fans become our students a lot, and they bring a lot of the energy, just like most college most college atmospheres. But you can kind of get lulled to sleep in that, right? There's nobody
Yeah,
there, and you're just kind of going through the motion. So it's one of those games that it can get sideways. Like you said, you let this team hang around the fourth quarter, and all of a sudden you're trying to gear yourself up. It might be too late. So it's definitely a game from start to finish. You have to play and just prepare. And one of the good things about this West Virginia team, we don't know who's going to start the bowl game, but there was only 8 kids announced, and how many of those guys are really going to, can't use film outside of Zach
yeah,
Frazier, can't use that little extra bit of work going into the off season for NFL training camps or whatever. But when you look at Zach, he's a West Virginia kid,
exactly.
so he's probably got more pride now. Even if he sets out, doesn't mean he doesn't have pride. I would set out if I was him. Like, why risk it? But
Right.
you don't know. I think there was one mock draft that had him the third round. But I'm sure that's going to be all over the place as we roll along closer to the NFL draft. So really, they should have their team intact. And I know we've talked about in the past getting those bowl practice reps with a young team is extremely valuable. And here's a young nucleus that's played together all season that can just correct a bunch, and you can kind of expect, look, they can finish strong here, go out and do what you're supposed to do, and beat the hell out of Baylor. You go into bowl prep really with a lot of momentum, and keeping all those kids together will be huge. And I think so much of this game really is just keeping your momentum going into the postseason.
It is. To me, this is kind of like a tape game, kind of like what you're saying with the bowl game and how this is an opportunity for these guys to put stuff on tape. You only got two more opportunities. So for guys like Lee Koba, Beanie Bishop, Doug Nestor, I mean, this is two more opportunities that you're guaranteed to have, barring any situation where you get an invite to one of these all-star games or combines or whatever. So this is one of your final chances to kind of prove yourself to the NFL scouts before the draft, and you got to make the most of those opportunities. So,
And really a good example is CJ Donaldson. He's been here
yeah,
2 years and he hasn't played every game because of injury. So you really, like, when you think about it, you get 4 years of eligibility. That's 48 guaranteed games that are on the
it's not a
schedule.
lot. I mean, it sounds like a lot, but it's really
It
not.
sounds like a lot, but CJ's probably missed, almost, he's a little over
Over
half
half a
that,
season. Yeah,
over half of those each season, so he's probably going to hit around the 18, 19 mark. He's already missed out on several games. So, and he's played hurt a couple of times. So how many times has he been healthy? So one of these, you get the opportunity when you're healthy to really showcase your talents. This is one of those games that you can put up the numbers, really add to your resume moving forward.
specifically too with Garrett Green. I mean, he's starting to catch some people's attention, throughout the conference and maybe even nationally a little bit. But again, what he did last week with the 3 touchdowns, all the rushing yardage, if you can build on that and put up another performance against Baylor, maybe even with your arm or with both, whatever, have a clean day, get that completion percentage up, you go 8-4, and if he shows out in the bowl game, all of a sudden, I think what you're going to see, Chris, is a lot of people's expectations nationally for this team in 2024 are going to take a big, big jump just because of what they saw from Garrett Green down this last month of the season or so.
Yeah, if you're looking ahead, you gotta look. All right, we just mentioned Zach Frazier. More likely going to lose him next year, and you're going to miss
Yeah.
some piece. Doug Nestor on the offensive line. Now they've been building this offensive line. It's not a panic situation at all. So, but continuity, how well they gel together early, um, that chemistry up there is big. Zach's taking care of a lot of stuff. He's captain of that offensive line. He barks out the signals, so he's going to be missed tremendously.
Oh, yeah.
So it's one of those things where, look, they've been here 5 years, but they've done a really good job of locally finding guys. Got Johnny Williams, who's a highly touted recruit. They love Johnny Williams. You still have White Milam coming back, so they've got pieces. But I think that's your biggest concern. I would still temper expectations going into next year because this receiving core still has to make big jumps. You still got to find consistency. Still haven't had a 1,000-yard receiver. Probably going to have to add another receiver or two from the portal. So they've done a pretty good job on the portal, I'd say, the last couple seasons. I mean, look at Beanie Bishop. I think 3 of the guys though ended up getting hurt. Didn't get to see him. That's unfortunate. But you kind of look at the success overall of the portal from last year. It's been pretty good. So they can find a couple pieces. I think if you going into this season, you kind of look at the receiving core like, ugh.
Yeah, yeah.
They did a lot better than I thought, even without a 1,000-yard receiver. So now you have more confidence there. But I think most of it's offensive line. What happens with the running back situation? Jaheim White's been great, stayed healthy. But what happens with Jalen Anderson and Justin Jefferson? You also have DJ Oliver. More than likely is going to return because he's still young, but there's still a lot of talent back there. So how that plays out as well will be key. And then look at the defense. You're going to have to replace Lee Koba. Obviously, we had Josiah Trotter. still waiting in the folds. They've got young pieces there. Ben Cutter has shown, but he's only
Trey
going to be
Lathan.
he's only going to be a sophomore. Yes, they're only going to be sophomores. So you might want to find a veteran linebacker in there as well, and then defensive front. You're obviously going to miss some pieces as well. So defense is still struggling from all the that was really some of the success that they had early on was defensively. But when you got poached the way they did, it's really been a building process. Like they've been steady at offensive line because they haven't been poached. There's a lot of Western kids, a lot of kids that were overlooked, but they've been building. But defensively, I couldn't hide a lot of that talent. So they're able to bring it in. It's still going to be a work in progress. Again, Beanie Bishop's going to be gone. Your secondary, um, it's going to be look like it's going to be thin again. So they're really going to have to work their magic. And Beanie Bishop was a great find.
Home run.
How do you find that in the offseason? Replicating that's going to be really really hard. So defensively, they've got their work cut out for them. But like you said, offensively, you might have to go out and score some teams. And don't want to put that on Garrett right now because he's still developing. But we'll see how a season under his belt. The way he came out last week after that Oklahoma game was great. The kid's unfazed. So I can't wait to see how he works out this offseason.
So more defensively for West Virginia in this game. Again, without Blake Shapen, they're probably going to have to lean on the run game a little bit, try to get the ball out of Robertson's hands quick. They do have some talented receivers, and Monterey Baldwin is the big one. Very explosive receiver. They get their tight end involved. Jackson Jr. is kind of like their big long target that they like to throw the ball deep down the field to. So they've got guys that can go make plays. They just haven't had the time to get it to them. So if you're Coach Grimes in this game, what is your game plan entering this game against West Virginia? What do you feel like is going to give Baylor the best chance to succeed?
They gotta stay disciplined. I think you can try to apply some pressure, but you apply pressure with discipline. And what I mean is, you see West Virginia trying to make too many plays, getting themselves out of position. You go straight up field, push the pocket into them, keep your edges, um, keep your edges strong on the outside. Then you can get to them. You don't let them scramble to the outside. So if the defensive ends can get upfield and you can push the pocket in the middle, I think that's the best. That's for really a lot of defenses. And I don't know if you can really, I think you still have to make Garrett beat you with his arm, and maybe you kind of put a spot on Garrett Green and make him force, just man up, make the receivers win those one-on-one matchups. Don't really know enough skill wise about their defense and the secondary. Can they man up? I don't know.
They're playing a lot of young bodies
West
over
Virginia
there.
really hasn't shown me that they can win a lot of one-on-one matchups. So I would just continue to one-on-one man up and send everybody else after Garrett Green and the running backs. Make him make the throws downfield. Make him beat you with his arm.
West Virginia ran for 424 yards last week against what is one of the better front sevens in the Big 12, you could argue. Baylor is ninth against the run, allowing 233 and a half yards per game. Does West Virginia have another 300-yard game in them?
The thing about that, West Virginia was running so many plays by they got time to Cincinnati that they narrowed it down to what they really ran really well, and it just threw Cincinnati completely off. Everything was just wide open. So that's a credit to the staff. Admittedly, they threw too much at Garrett for Oklahoma, and that's I don't want to say great Oklahoma defense, but that's a great coaching staff. They knew exactly what to do. And when you throw too much at someone that doesn't have the full understanding, that's kind of the result you get. So I think really what they've done, they talked about simplifying it. That's what they've run really well. Garrett does a really good job on the read option of keeping that ball in there, disguising what he is doing. And they just didn't have anybody on Garrett. So I think if you're Baylor, it's important to have a spot. Yes, it kind of takes it off. It takes a little bit off in coverage, but if you have a guy floating in the middle, it can take away those short rests over the middle. And again, you want to force Garrett to throw the ball down the field, prove that the receivers can win those one-on-one matchups, those 50-50 balls, per se, 50-50 balls, and just prove that they can win with his arm. I don't know why that really hasn't been a success. Oklahoma pretty much did that, but they also have the skill on the outside to just man up with people. So I think that's really a lot. Like, it's easy for West Virginia. Fans always get mad at West Virginia, and me as well, that the corners are far off the receivers. Well, if you go up on the receiver and he's tenths of a second faster than you, he's still going to get open 5 yards down the field. Like, it doesn't
And
matter.
then you have nothing behind it.
Yeah, what you're trying to do is keep it in front of you and make them make the play. Now, there's still a little bit too much cushion in that they can makes it easy to toss and catch at times, but it's the same result. Just don't let anything behind you. I think with Baylor, again, if they feel they got it, go up press coverage, especially Devin Carter. He's shown he struggled with that all year. Just go and press cover these guys, because Traylon Ray is going to be a great player, but he's not physically there yet. Hudson Clement has potential to be one of those sneaky good West Virginia receivers we've had over the years, but he's not going to get off press coverage right now. So just go up, press him, and win or lose by it. Just be physical with those receivers and see what happens.
Yeah, I agree. This is again on paper, it's a matchup that heavily favors West Virginia. I think just in about every area, and really, when I wrote down my notes this week for Baylor, I mean, I felt like I was writing the Cincinnati preview because it felt like
just go do what you do.
Yeah,
go do what you do, execute, and you walk away with an 8-win season and get ready for the bowl game.
The only difference between the two is Cincinnati can run the ball and they can stop the run. Outside of that, it's essentially the same team that you're playing this week. So
Shapen isn't in I think he's during conference play, I believe. He's fourth in the league in passing yards per game. He might be third overall.
It's a big loss for them.
It is. And the kid, I think his 3 starts throwing just under 50%, threw 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. So, I mean, it's a big drop off. And I know Sawyer Robinson, was that his name?
Yeah.
He was a highly talented transfer from Mississippi State, and he's going to be good in the future. But, trying to learn the system, everything that they're doing, it just a little quick, but I think he would be, we'll have to see what happens with David Randa, of course, as well. So kind of see what happens there, but they may have something there with him, but it might be actually a good confidence builder going up against thin West Virginia defense. We'll have to see who plays, but Chapin definitely, he's a junior, and he's put up some good games this year. Their biggest problem with a lot of teams in college football has been the red zone offense. So I think they have 12 touchdowns from the red zone this year. So.
Red zone defense isn't that great either. Or actually, yes, it is. They're actually really fourth in the league in red zone defense. Offense, though, not so much.
Yeah, well, they also give up a lot of big plays.
That's the offset.
You can limit those opportunities when you give up.
That's what I mentioned in the game day shows. Like, look, they're fourth in the red zone, but when you're giving up 33 points per game, that tells you that they're just giving up explosives all over the place. So we'll see what happens. West Virginia and Baylor, 7:00 kickoff down in Waco. You can catch it on FS1. We'll have the Mountaineers Now post-game show with Eugene and myself after that one. And then we'll be back Sunday for some Mountaineers Now post-game show with Chris. And that will be West Virginia Bellarmine. And I'll also have the Sunday morning video, like I always do, recapping the game. And that'll be Baylor. So we'll know whether or not West Virginia gets to 8-4 here in a couple of days. Thank you guys for watching another episode of Between the Ears. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube at Mountaineers Now and give us a follow on X at the same handle. And we wish you guys a happy Thanksgiving. Stay safe and enjoy your time with the family this weekend as we get ready for the 12th and final game of the football season. Take care.